Guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. Now, in today's video, guys, I do want to make this a little bit of a quicker one because obviously I am a little bit late to this, but we're going to be doing a full review on the newest Blumhouse release, Imaginary. Now, before I get onto this, we got quite a few more movies to go in March, so make sure you stay tuned for reviews for that. And also, I have my list put together for my top 10 favorite movies of all time, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That is what is going to be coming up next after I have this video uploaded. Otherwise, getting straight on to the review here. So it hasn't been too long since we've had one of these types of movies, these PG-13 horror movie from Blumhouse. Obviously, just 2 months ago, we had Night Swim, which I'm going to compare this movie to a ton in this review, pretty much throughout the entire review, because the main positive that I had for this movie, getting straight into it, is that I think that the overall concept had a lot more merit to it for being a feature-length film than did Night Swim, where I pretty much knew exactly what I was going to be, what to expect with Night Swim as soon as I saw the trailer. But when I saw the trailer for Imaginary, I thought, you know, I think this could work a lot better. I had a little bit more hopes for it. And as you'll see me talk about, I think there's a lot of really, really great ideas here for Imaginary, just maybe not the best execution. And also, I'm a bigger fan of this type of horror than with Night Swim. This, like, childhood horror, nostalgia, childhood imagination, nostalgia, all that kind of stuff. You kind of heard me talk about it a little bit with Night Swim, with this short horror, short form horror content on YouTube. There's some really, really eerie stuff on there that I really like. Really, really good ideas for this movie, and that's why overall I enjoyed this movie at least a little bit more than Night Swim. I can say that right off the bat, and also I think that the pacing in this movie wasn't too bad, wasn't as redundant as with Night Swim. Plays out naturally, but also kind of predictably. They use pretty much the same exact format with Night Swim, and they just slap it in here, where you have this mom who moves back into her childhood home with her husband or boyfriend, not really sure, and her two stepdaughters. And the youngest stepdaughter has this imaginary friend in the form of a teddy bear that is named Chauncey. And so at the beginning of the movie, she doesn't really expect much about it, but the bear starts making her do these harmful things, and things start getting weirder. She starts acting differently. You have this neighbor who enters in about the middle of the movie, who's this older lady who used to babysit the mom, and is telling her how she used to babysit her and she had an imaginary friend, so maybe there's some kind of connection there. Maybe there's something that they have to do to fix this. And so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I think that the pacing was all right. And I also think that some of the acting was definitely a lot more passable than with Night Swim. There was actually some really, really good scenes in here with the younger the little girl actor. Particularly the best example I have is there's this therapy session scene where this therapist comes in, she interviews the girl, asks her to interact with her teddy bear, she's recording it, and so they're kind of having a back and forth, she's having a back and forth conversation with her imaginary friend. And she's turned away from the camera, so when they're having this conversation, you don't know if the girl is just talking the whole time or if there's, you know, the imaginary friend is actually talking. And it gets really, really emotional, really, really tense, and I really, really love that scene. There's a few other scenes where the girl actually does really, really good job at conveying emotion, actually, in her lines. So credit to her. I think she actually did pretty well at certain spots. But other than that, as you'll see, acting and the dialogue, not too great here. So moving into the mixed category before we get into the negatives, as I've already stated, I think there's a lot of really great ideas in this movie, but because, you know, this type of horror is like pretty much my favorite, and I know it's pretty specific, but that's one of the reasons why I'm really critical about it, because the design of the biggest example is the design of the bear when it comes into full form. I think that I'm glad that they went practical for it and not CGI. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know. I'm just kind of on the fence of how I feel about it. Maybe they should have gone with some kind of different creature instead of a teddy bear. Maybe something a little less cliche. And also, I really, really like the idea of having this, like, doorway at the ending of the movie that they go into, this like memory capsule, essentially, where these different doors open to different childhood memories. I really like that idea, but again, I just don't think it was executed right. Some different visuals that could have been thrown in there to make it a little bit creepier as they're going through it, because it felt more like some kind of action film, even though when the bear was chasing them, it was pretty tense. I don't know. I just think that I'm super highly critical about this stuff because it's my favorite type of horror, but just kind of on the fence about those things. And so that's why I throw it into the mix category, because I think these were really good ideas, but could have been executed a little bit better. Moving into the negatives, pretty similar to that of Night Swim, where there is some really, really, really cheesy dialogue, and some really, really, questionable acting in this movie, where I think the biggest example here is you have this entire scene where, again, they use the same format as with Night Swim, where you have the older teenage girl, there's this guy who's interested in her, he, like, lives close to them, and he, visits with her in the house a few times, and one time he comes in, and he, like, sticks out his tongue, and he's got this little, like, pill on his tongue, and he's like, "You want some? This is Molly," or something like that. And the girl's obviously a little bit hesitant about it. And they even specifically say in the movie that she is only 15. And so just makes things even more awkward. But then, so the boy's like searching through like the husband's like alcohol selection or whatever, messing around with that, trying to get her to take a drink or something like that, breaking bottles. And then he goes upstairs for a little bit. Goes to the bathroom, and then we actually get a glimpse of the bear in full form in the middle section of the movie before we see it like for a while at the end, towards the ending of the movie, and then comes back down. The mom catches him in there with her, and with like no emotion whatsoever, she's like, "What are you doing?" Or like, "What are you doing? Get out of here!" And then so his mom comes over, and they're trying to like work it out, explain things, and the mom's like, that isn't Molly, those are my allergy pills. And I'm just like, oh, why did we need this entire scene? What the, like, I don't want to do a fake laugh on camera, but believe me, when I was watching this movie, some of those lines really, really cracked me up. Not as much as Night Swim though, because it was coming from Wyatt Russell, which is 10 times funnier, but in this movie, believe me, there are some lines in here where they just say things with a completely straight face that should be, like, they should be angry, they should be sad or something like that, and they just say it with a completely straight face, and it just comes out so corny in here. And that whole scene is pretty much pretty much sums up the problems that I have with Night Swim and Imaginary. Just the really, really terrible and cheesy dialogue in here that I had with this movie. And as I said, I thought that the pacing was all right until the ending, where they do a lot of fake out endings here for some reason, and I'm not really sure why. I think that they should have just stuck with a 90-minute runtime, not added in the extra 15 minutes there with the fake outs, and take out some of those scenes like I was talking about with the teenage boy and the girl and all that kind of stuff. Just take out those scenes, condense it down to a 90-minute film, build up the suspense a little bit more, and I think it just would have worked a lot better instead of trying to make these fake out endings here that I don't think really made all that much sense. And then one last thing that was kind of a minor issue for me. Like I said, a lot of the acting in here, not super great, other than the little girl in here. I thought she had some really great scenes, but their one acting like talent in here, their best asset, Tom Payne, who obviously has played in The Walking Dead, it's what he's most known for, they don't utilize in this movie. He's gone for a majority of the movie, and I just really think that if maybe they would have stuck him in this movie a little bit more, that maybe there would have been more good stuff for me to say. But overall, I think that there are some really good ideas behind Imaginary, but just like with any given Blumhouse horror film, it's hit or miss. You have some surprising hits with Megan, and even though I'm probably in the minority, Halloween Ends, and then you have the misses with Truth or Dare and Night Swim. And I think that Imaginary is just kind of in that gray area where I really, really like the idea, and there's some decent acting in here, a little bit more to dish out, a little bit more merit than with Night Swim. Yeah, you're just kind of left in the middle on the fence where you're just like, that could have been so much better, just kind of landed kind of right in the middle, where I think that Night Swim, I don't think I did a full review for it, but I would put Night Swim around a 3.5 to 4, 4 out of 10, where with Imaginary, I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 10. I think there is a lot more potential with this idea, you know, Blumhouse is going to be Blumhouse, and sometimes it's not always going to work out super great. So, enough of me. That's all I got. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the future March reviews, and the next video coming up, top 10 favorite movies of all time. That's all I got for you guys. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.